you know, you guys are winning a lot of games. You're in first in the NFC.
9 games straight. Yeah, sounds like a funeral.
You're on a 9-game heater. Look, I know you were there, and obviously you understand this team and the dynamic there well.
Yeah.
What do you know that we're hearing from that frustration there? What are your sense of that?
Well, obviously the passing game hasn't been where those guys want it to be. And I think you saw 2 players who were really frustrated and really want to be dominating because they're both really good. And I think that, I disagree with Jalen Hurts that you're not always trying, that you shouldn't be figuring that out at week 13. I think that is something that you're continually figuring out. That is something that is always, this is part of playing in the NFL. The Detroit Lions barely snuck out one against the Chicago Bears last week. They almost lost to the Houston Texans. The best teams in the league. And Carolina's been playing better. This isn't like a slouch of a team.
Yeah, the Chiefs beat them on a walk-off.
Yeah, I mean, so Bryce Young made a ton of plays and made some crucial situations pop for him and kept them in that game. But I think this is something that they're trying to figure out. They're clearly frustrated, and that's what you saw. You saw 2 guys have to answer questions immediately after a game in which they know that game shouldn't have been that close.
Right.
And they weren't able to contribute in the way that they wanted to contribute. That's what it sounds like to me.
Give me a hug before I do this.
Okay, come on.
All right.
I'll take your hug.
Okay.
I'm always a huggy.
So remind me, RC and Scott, same team that won 11 or 12 early in the season last year.
10-1.
10-1 last year.
Yep.
All right, this is a reverberation of that. This is them knowing that we are going to have to play better based on the way the season ended last year. I think some of that is built into this reaction and the expectation that they have for themselves.
But I will say the big difference between that and last year. Last year,
Saquon Barkley.
Well, not just that. Last year we were, like the 28th or 9th ranked defense. This year, these guys are playing really good, right? The whole defensive front has played at a high level. The secondary, since Cooper DeJean has gone in, has played really well.
Well, a part of it is your fault though, because of the standard. I'm serious, JK.
I got you.
The standard, right? Like the difference in you and RC on this stage than me is y'all won Super Bowls, and you don't relent on those things that you know make you a championship football team, because it can turn disaster really fast in this league when we know most games are played on the margins. They played as close games. So I think the frustration is coming from, we know that we can be dominant in a passing game with AJ and Devontae, and yes, we won, and yes, we've been having success, but we're going to focus on this week. And I get it, maybe not have the attitude, talk about we got to go back to work and get things better, but there should be frustration from the expectations that these guys have. You won a Super Bowl. Just 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
No, it's been longer than that. I wish it was 2 years ago. I lost one 2 years ago.
I'm sorry, you lost one. But y'all went to the Super Bowl.
We went there.
And then you come back a year later where you think you're making that same type of run, and some things fall by the wayside.
I'll say this. I get the frustration.
Yeah.
I am a little disappointed. Like, man, if you're going to get stuff right, it takes self-accountability, and it takes ownership of everybody. And I know that everybody's frustrated. They know that they're better players than what's happening. But, man, it's gotta be like this. It's got to be coming together. It's got to be taking ownership of things. And I think that that's happening behind the doors. I think that was just a blurb out there in the heat of the moment on some of that stuff. Because I know those guys very well.
It can't be like just the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
A.J. Brown is mature enough and understands enough that when you're asked, what do you have to get better in? And you say passing, ain't but one person throwing the ball, and that's Jalen Hurts. It directly points a finger at your quarterback.
That's true.
Period, point blank. You didn't say, we have to get better in the passing game. I need to run better routes. I need to be more in sync with my quarterback. We have to come together and do what Kellen Moore wants us to do. He didn't say that. They asked him a question, and he said passing. One person throws the ball. So now you immediately make all the cameras, put all the attention on your quarterback, who may be struggling, who may be missing some things. So what does Dan Orlovsky do this morning? He shows a video that shows every time A.J. Brown was missed, which he may have done anyway. But he's going to do it more so now because you pointed the finger at your quarterback.
I will say,
there is no accountability in that.
You're right. I 100% agree. And I think passing isn't always just the quarterback. I think there's a multifaceted thing with that. But you're right. It's going to lead to scrutinization of the quarterback.
But, JK, to your point, we know that.
Yeah.
But when you disseminate that information in front of the masses, most people are going to say, damn, he talking about Jalen Hurts, who don't understand that it takes the offensive line protecting and everybody being.
A lot of
Every
times it's the
team
messaging. It's the messaging.
Every team needs to be better in everything all the time. Say everything.
We had this conversation in the room, Jason, that that's the type of thing. If you say, hey, we won 9 in a row, and that's great. We can be better in the passing game, and we'll be even better then. Then you're selling sunshine as opposed to you seem sullen and mad because things aren't going.
I am going to say this. I'm upset.
Final word.
These are, at the end of the day, these guys are going to go back to work. And they know they need to play better, and that's the biggest thing I'm taking away from this. All those guys know they got to get better, and those guys have been together for years. I got to think that they're going to get this figured out. I really do.
And they also,
come on, guys!
They also got 9 games.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you what. I ain't got a lot of friends, and I wouldn't accept AJ Brown as one of mine if that's how he gonna treat me.
Then that's the final word. As we continue on Monday Night Countdown.
I love AJ. I just want to.
He would.